Welcome to 3 Questions in 3 Minutes, where we sit down with education leaders across the state to discuss the blueprint for Maryland's future. Today, we are joined by Montgomery County Council Member at Large, Will Jawando. Councilmember Jawando, please tell us about yourself and the work the Montgomery County Council is doing in pursuit of educational equity.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be in the fight with this effort with you all. As you mentioned, Councilmember Will Jawando, I represent all 1.1 million of our county's residents. We're the largest county in the state. We have the largest school system in the state with over 160,000 students. Many people don't know that a third of our student population are on free and reduced meals. We have a larger student population on free and reduced meal than the entire DC public school system. And I was one of those kids. I grew up in the Long Branch area of Silver Spring, the son of a Nigerian immigrant father and a white mom from Kansas, very low income. And for me, education made all the difference. I had access to my first Black male teacher in the public schools, a gentleman named Mr. Williams, who taught me how to tie a tie, and he taught me math. And I know the impact that our students need to have from their teachers and from their school system. So now, as a member of the Montgomery County Council Education Committee, I know that that need is not being met for all of our students, whether it be the facilities, whether it be teachers who believe that every student can achieve, whether it be language access, whether it be our students with differing abilities. We have much more to do in Montgomery County and in the state. And that's why I've worked my entire career as a civil rights lawyer, as a member of the Education Committee, in the United States Congress as a staffer, and at the Education Department under President Obama, to try to make sure that we have equitable access to opportunity in our school system. Because we know when we do that, so many other positive benefits for our society come from that. It's not only great for the individual, it's also great for society. So that's why I'm an advocate for education.
Thank you so much for that answer, and thank you for the work that you've done thus far. Can you tell us a little bit about what was at stake for the communities you serve in the blueprint, and what would those school communities have gained?
Well, the blueprint is such an important piece of legislation. It really covers the whole child, and that's what this is about. You know, I'm the father, my wife and I have 4 young children. What you want to see that they have access to early childhood education from right when they're born, that they can step in and start learning right away, because we know kids are like sponges, and that puts them on a great track. We want to make sure that they can read by 3rd grade and they have the proper interventions and supports to do so. We want to make sure that they get access to work-based learning opportunities and graduate high school on time, and then can afford to go to college. And the blueprint really puts us on track in Maryland to address multiple needs. It also addresses that paying our teachers and our educators well, so that they can do the jobs and afford to do it, and pour into our students like we need them to do. And it's such a big and important investment. There's also obviously a companion, and a part of the bill was to invest in the physical infrastructure of our schools, right? Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that, and that's why we need to override that and get that investment across the state, certainly here in Montgomery County, but in other parts of the state, so our kids have welcoming learning environments that have the technology and are safe, particularly in COVID, so that they can learn and not have any issues with heating and HVAC and all the things we know that are happening across the state. So that's why the blueprint's so important, and that's why we need it, and that's why it's good that it passed, but we need to make sure it's fully implemented.
Thank you for that complete response, and thank you for reminding us that the blueprint veto wasn't just a veto of the blueprint legislation. Our school construction dollars were tied to that bill, so there is in fact a lot at stake. Given all of that, what message do you have for lawmakers in the General Assembly as we approach the 2021 legislative session?
My message for our colleagues in the General Assembly, which I know they agree with, is that we need to override this veto, plain and simple. There's too much at stake. There's too much at stake for our children, for the future of our state, for the future of our country, for the economic sustainability of our communities. Everything is tied into how we fund in an equitable way our school system, how we pay our teachers, how we make sure that the buildings that our students are in are up to standards. This is so important for so many aspects of our economy and our society, particularly now as we're dealing with the multiple pandemics of COVID, which has exacerbated and showed the fault lines in our community as far as inequity in such a dramatic way. As we recover our education system, wraparound services, supports, after school programs, all these things are going to be, early childhood education are going to be even more important than they were prior to COVID, and they were really important then. So that's why we must override this veto, and that's our singular message.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Jawando, for joining me today, and thank you and the other members of the Montgomery County Council for the great work you're doing on behalf of students and school communities. So we will be back soon with another 3 questions in 3 minutes. Until then.